Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this great opportunity to speak to a wonderful organization. I'm Stephanie Haumschild. I love what I do. Not many people get to say that, but I truly mean it. I work for St. Croix County. I'm a land use and conservation planning technician. So I do land use permits, conservation programs, and I administer land use permits, work with conditional use permits and variances to help people get things what they need for their property around the county. Beginning of July, I had a family gathering at our house, and my aunts and uncles were there. They are pillars in my life. One of my uncles, Brian Hopp, is a farmer down south of River Falls. He was asking me about my work, and he said, "What's a city girl know about soils?" I'm from Stillwater. I'm not a city girl. I told him that I was a soil erosion inspector, I was a sanitary inspector, and I'm working on my certified soil tester licensure with the state of Wisconsin. So he started to ask me some questions. I was able to answer them, surprisingly. And he asked me some more questions, and I was able to answer them. And we went back and forth for a little bit. Later that night, my husband, Nate, said, "I don't know what you were talking about with your uncle, but the two of you knew what you were talking about." So I was impressed, and I thought that was really neat. So the world of soil erosion and its effects on water quality really start with what our soils are. Let's talk about the ground we're on right here. Today, this is a YMCA camp, beautiful facility. 180 years ago, the river valley was full of lumber and logs with the logging boom. 400 years ago, Duluth and Nicollet were coming down the St. Croix River on their voyaging. 1,000 years ago, the Lakota, Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Ho-Chunk nations followed bison across the prairies and Great Plains. 2 miles of glacial ice covered this area during the last ice age, depositing through glacial runoff what would become our soils. Soil erosion is a natural evolution of how lands are changed over geologic time. St. Croix County has a varied landscape with high prairie, bluffs, wetlands, streams, rivers, and rich farmlands. The county is continuously growing with more people moving here and building, and there are parameters in place to help slow, stop, and control soil erosion. Part of my job with the county is to ensure that our shoreland areas are protected from soil erosion from entering the waters. We work with partnership with National Park Service, Wisconsin DNR, and all of our tradespeople for sanitary plumbing who work hard to protect all of our natural water resources. Soil erosion is the loss of topsoil to wind, rain, and other forces through a natural process, but is intensified with human activity. St. Croix County also expects landowners to have responsibility to oversee the development and develop best management practices to ensure that their soil stays stable on their development sites. A construction job that removes ground cover, no matter how small, can have effects on erosion. Non-native grasses that require lots of water and nutrients is more prone to erosion as the root systems do not go deep to stabilize soils. Straw matting, hydroseeding, and sod are helpful with vegetation growth, especially with the weather systems that we have seen recently. I had a lot of water at my house the other day. Water runoff can also cause erosion, as water will carry soils over vegetation and can cover vegetation with sediment. Areas that do not have proper grading can create problems for neighboring properties, as water can sheet from one property to the next. This can lead to foundation damages in some developments. Drainage easements, stormwater basins, and planned protected areas like vegetative buffer zones on shoreland areas are added into design to control where the water goes. One dust storm during the 1930s could carry over 300 million tons of topsoil. Factors that reduced ground cover during this period included loss of habitat, with prairies and high plains being turned into farmlands without knowing better management practices. The vegetation was removed, bare soils were exposed. Soil structure that was held in place with deep root systems of native grasses were destroyed. The bison were a keystone species in the plains as they migrated and ate flowers all throughout the center of the country. As they migrated, they added nutrients, broke up the soil with their hooves, but did not compact the soils because they were not contained. They migrated. It was a complete ecosystem. Today, to avoid anything like this, we have better field management practices, seasonal cover, low-till, no-till farming that helps reduce erosion. We must always be vigilant and continue to encourage best land management to avoid this type of catastrophe from happening again. And even remember last winter when we had the heavy winds come up from the south and the snow was covered with soil? That is something like this. So just imagine that can happen over time. Soil erosion can occur in small ways that can create bigger issues if left unchecked. If you have rain gutters on your house, then you might see what we have here, a bare spot under the downspout. This is the beginning of soil erosion. The top view shows the bent vegetation and a path where the water is going to lower areas on the property. This can be mitigated with a small rock pond or a plastic edge panel that breaks where the water hits. Slowing and reducing the force of the water will control the erosion channels that can form in our yards. As the population grows in the county with more development, properties must be prepared for land disturbances. Home building sites and lot grading should be wrapped with soil erosion fencing to reduce soil erosion and water contamination. This is helped with properly installed and maintained silt fencing, biologs, or berms. Silt fencing is trenched in and should be checked after each storm event. There is a difference in these two photos. One site was just installed and the other site had just experienced one storm event. This is sadly what we see on sites around the county. The fencing was in place in the beginning of the build, but not maintained and replaced after obvious failure. The fencing that is still in place on the upper photo should be cleaned out and fixed with the sediment removed. The washout on the bottom photo is concerning as this is running down a hill onto a neighboring property. Water is carrying soils and sediment. This could lead to more washout, the area growing larger where the final grade and vegetation is established. Would you like to be the neighbor living below this? It is necessary for developers to plan water movement in our developments. Drainage easements, ditches, swales, and ponds help move and collect water for infiltration. The culverts help properties and driveways stay dry as water moves beneath. This is a great example of what a clean culvert looks like. Healthy vegetation, minimal sediment, and pine needles to easily remove to keep the flow clear from obstructions. How many here have culverts? So you like the clean one. This is a series of potential problems. The first photo on the left shows a new culvert with a rock install. When grown vegetation surrounds this rock, it will be clean because the soils hold the sediment that is caught in the grass and it will not enter the culvert area, keeping the drain clear. The middle photo is the view downstream of the culvert install after several storms. The sediment is moving around the culvert and into the drainage ditch. If not cleaned up, the vegetation will die off, leaving ground exposed and allowing more soil to run. The third photo shows the sediment creeping towards the new neighbor's culverts. If untreated, this could cause foundation problems or sanitary problems if the sanitary system is saturated by improperly functioning culverts. This culvert leads to a stormwater pond. The extra sediment could kill off vegetation in the pond and ruin the habitat. This would turn the pond green as algae blooms from the nutrients in the water from the dead vegetation. No one wants to live near a green pond in a neighborhood. Shoreline properties highlight the merging of land and water. River sediment and land soils can be separated naturally with vegetation, or some may need more assistance with riprap, like this riverway installation. The sensitive bluff areas are going to naturally erode, but the boulder cover helps protect from river floodwaters. This riprap will contain sediment from the hillside and prevent it from entering the water. The different organics in the hillside soils can pollute at the water's edge, causing nutrients to grow algae, changing clear water into murky muck, and altering aquatic habitat. This area has no natural vegetation, so the boulders are the best way to control the erosion and stabilize the hillside. Cedar Lake has had water quality issues, and just this week I had someone contact me about a property that might have some violations during their construction. When the county issues shoreline land use permits, we inspect the site before construction, when the stakes are put in and the erosion control is put up. When we have a complaint, we do inspect and contact the property owners. Sometimes construction occurs without the owners ever checking on the site, just going by the word of the contractor. Inspections are an important part of protecting the water resources we have in the county. The homeowner wants to see the clear water and the higher property values that brings. This non-conforming cabin had a riprap bank installed with additional soils to level the yard after it was damaged from ice push and water eroding the bank. This is a great example of a homeowner taking control of the site for a long-term solution. Our St. Croix River banks are protected with native shoreline grasses and sedges. The root systems hold soils underwater and are adapted to the rise and fall of the water flow. The vegetation acts as a filter by preventing soils and sediment from entering at the water's edge and stopping it, therefore protecting water quality and habitat. Soils and waters are meant to coexist, and our development patterns can highlight how we can protect our valuable natural resources and enjoy these views.
In Wisconsin, our lakes and streams are a treasure. Healthy lakes and streams lead to wonderful times fishing, swimming, and just hanging out by the water. Water runs downhill, so what we do on the land affects the fish, water quality, and lake health. Shoreland zoning is a key tool to protect our lakes and streams for today and for future generations. When hard surfaces like homes and driveways are built farther from the shore, more trees and native plants can be kept in place to allow for a naturally stable shoreline. Clear, unpolluted water results in less algae growth and high waterfront property values. Waterfront property developed without shoreland zoning standards can degrade lakes in a number of ways. Removing trees and native plants from the shoreline results in eroded soil, more water pollution, and more algae growth. It also results in fewer frogs, fish, and other wildlife. If homes and other hard surfaces are built close to the shore, water runs into the lake, carrying soil and other pollutants with it. These pollutants harm fish that hunt by sight because they can't find their prey. Eroded soil also smothers fish eggs. Lawns without taller plants attract geese, which poop and increase algae blooms. When shoreland zoning is tailored to fit the different types of lakes and rivers we have in Wisconsin, it leads to careful waterfront development that keeps our lakes and rivers healthy so that we can all enjoy them. What do shoreland zoning standards accomplish? Fewer eroded and lost shorelines. Clearer water equals higher property values. More fish and more fish species. And more food and shelter for fish and frogs. For more information about shoreland zoning, check with your local zoning office. For information about how to improve habitat and water quality on your shoreland property, see the Healthy Lakes and Rivers website.
Just as a follow-up, I love what I do. I love my community. I'm from Stillwater. I'm a Valley girl. I love protecting this area because it's for my kids, it's for your kids, and it's for all of us to enjoy. We have such a wonderful basic standard of living here, and it's all because of our natural resources. I work at the Community Development Department at St. Croix County. Thank you so much for your time today.